Hello, I'm Dr. Sri Banerjee, core faculty for the College of Health Sciences and Public Policy at Walden University with the joint faculty at Ross University School of Medicine. And I wanted to, today, especially because it's pulmonary hypertension awareness, wanted to talk to you about this. So if you look at, and some of this is partially cut off, but if you take a look at the inferior vena cava, all of that is going with deoxygenated blood. So this is coming in from the superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. So let me draw that for a second. So for those of you listening to this, you'll know what this is. So the deoxygenated blood is going in and going into the right atrium. So this deoxygenated blood is coming from the superior and inferior vena cava. And then it enters into the right atrium. And then you have the tricuspid valve, which then goes into the ventricle. And this is all, just to let you know, this is all deoxygenated blood that is going through. Even though the color is not blue here. So then this goes into the pulmonary artery. Take note that this is where the where part of the disease will lie. So right here, and then we go to the pulmonary vein. Now this has been oxygenated within the lungs. That's roughly about like this. And like this. So this is how it is, and you don't have too much going on except for the normal. Then, so then after the lungs, this is the pulmonary artery, and the pulmonary vein now is bringing in oxygenated blood. So I'm going to try to change the color here. Let's take a look at the color. Okay, anyway. So the oxygenated blood then goes into the left atrium, and then through the mitral valve goes into the ventricle, and then oxygenated blood is going into the aorta, which is a lot of times gets thickened, and then the axillary nerve, brachiocephalic nerve, and the common carotid is going into the neck. And so this is how all of these are functioning, and some of this goes into the coronary artery as well. Anyway, so this is oxygenated blood. So what I wanted to show you first is that how when congestive heart failure takes place. So this is the left ventricle, and if out of what is filling, if 60% of that goes into the aorta, anything 60 and above is considered normal. Now, when you have ejection fractions of 50 or 40, then we're getting into heart failure. So that's an important number to know, the ejection fraction. Now, what is oftentimes neglected is right-sided heart failure. That's left-sided heart failure. But most often this is not talked about as much, and there is a lot of percentage of the pulmonary artery thickening, and so then blood backs up. Mostly in the pulmonary artery that thickening takes place, and that I'll go over in a second. But what starts to happen is this starts to back up. And so once this is backed up, the right atrium, then when the right ventricle is backed up, then the right atrium is backed up as well, and then the superior vena cava and inferior vena cava gets backed up, and you see ascites. And the right-sided heart failure is a bit different than left-sided heart failure, because the left side is mainly measured, but the right side, a lot of these on the right atrium and right ventricle is not measured. So there could be ascites within the liver, and also backed up into the leg. So I wanted to bring awareness to the fact that pulmonary arteries need to be assessed for right-sided heart failure. And a lot of times when a person has a developed heart failure, inflammatory conditions like even SLE, rheumatoid, or other autoimmune mechanisms can make this thicken this prematurely. And when you have this thickening, then right-sided heart failure takes place. So I hope this brings some awareness of the physiology. I've actually physically, within the cadaver lab, held the heart, and it's interesting to look at the chambers firsthand. I hope this has provided you a brief synopsis. Thank you for listening. For bonus content for this video, what I did is one that I was primarily looking at outcomes in pulmonary hypertension in relation to insurance status, National Hospital Discharge Survey. One of the reasons that I ended up using the NHDS is because the problem is there's not too many cases of pulmonary hypertension, so I had to go through the ICD-9 at the time, or ICD-10 actually, to determine which individuals had pulmonary hypertension. And it might not have been the primary cause. It's a rare disease, so we have to use something like National Hospital Discharge Survey. So for pulmonary hypertension, it was noted that comparisons analyzed using chi-squared complex samples multiple regression procedure was employed to determine the relationship with healthcare and discharge status. And so what I did with the goal there was go in and take a look at proprietary versus government versus non-proprietary. And that I'm talking about hospitals. So non-federal versus non-proprietary. So the mortality rate in those two are higher than the proprietary rate. So as you can see, overall unadjusted, but we were looking about Medicaid coverage compared to other types of health coverage. It was 2.31%, so it's 131% compared to other types, and then closer to 1 for individuals that had Medicaid coverage. So basically, when you have Medicaid coverage, you're more likely to be for death rather than individuals who had other types of health coverage. So in fact, individuals that didn't have, let me say this again. So when individuals that had Medicaid coverage compared to other types of coverage was 2.31 per death, whereas it was 1.31 for individuals with Medicaid coverage that did not have Medicaid coverage. It was closer to 1.31. So it's important to note that the types of insurance and Medicaid coverage, when you have it, then you don't have as much percentage. The adjusted odds ratio was 1.31. So in this, we're not really mentioning death. It's more looking at the types of pulmonary hypertension based on medical coverage. So among those with pulmonary hypertension who were uninsured or had only Medicaid coverage had a 131% higher chance of mortality than those who had private coverage or other insurance. So if they had private coverage, then they functioned better than individuals who are uninsured or only have Medicaid coverage. And this is actually relevant in all places, in many places. And that was the extent of this letter to the editor. And this was a short article that it demonstrated a lot of things. It continued for 10 years. And so the ICD-9 code were the ones that I provided. And here are all the different statistics. So probably learned something new. How Medicaid coverage is sometimes inferior to having other private types of coverage. And I'm showing you some of the techniques that were utilized in order to understand this. So this is a new published paper. It makes sense. It was peer-reviewed a couple times. So all of this makes sense as well. In Turkey, where universal healthcare since 2012 with growing privatization. So professionals need to ensure that individuals with Medicaid are also diagnosed and treated at the same rate. So these are all the different facets to be remembered. Nations are creating healthcare systems that people can get lost in the safety nets. Thank you for listening.